I'm a religious Jew who deeply, deeply fears the demise of Christianity in the West and elsewhere. The substitutions that have been created in the secular world have all been disastrous, all. And if you care about goodness, you have to worry about the demise of Christianity, whatever your beliefs are. Second, I would want Christians to understand, and if there's dissent here, please vocalize it in your final statement. I think the truest statement of Christianity is Judeo-Christianity. If the Judeo is left out, you don't have a Christianity that is authentic. And I need to say, again, we need each other badly. Christianity rests on Judaism. The Jewish God, the Jewish Torah, the Jewish value system is known to the world thanks to Christians. Those are two facts, not beliefs. And they're essential to a better world, which is everything.
Well, I just love that final verse of John, you know, this sense that it would be impossible to contain Jesus in all the books in the world. And I feel this week we've covered so much and yet so little. We've scratched the surface of all the different facets of the diamond that is the Gospels. It's been wonderful for me just to read them through again, really for the first time in a long time, just getting a sense of their narrative power and the depth of the symbolism and the sense of all these different strands come rushing together from the seedbed of the Hebrew Scriptures. And it's been so special doing it after Exodus and seeing the ways in which all of those threads have been woven together into the tapestry of the Gospels. And I'm just struck again at how what we see in the figure of Jesus and what he models is something like the invention of the human. It's well known that early Christianity wrestles, when it's wrestling with the question of who was Jesus or who is Jesus, because they said they were convinced that it's an is, not a was. They would ask, well, is he God or is he human? And the conclusion they come to is that he was the God-man, and he is the model, the example of what we ought to become and what we can become. We can participate in the divine life through what he has achieved. And as the early church came to reflect more and more about what it was, what it means to say that Jesus is a human being, it started to think about what it was to be a human being and what it was for human beings to be invested with a sacred and infinite dignity. And that's a conception of the human that has until recently been uncontroversial, but that's changing. And I think the key question now is whether a post-Christian culture is not going to usher in a post-human culture.
Christ is a master at using short, mysterious stories. They change the listener who takes them seriously.
The person that you do not think could ever be virtuous, well, let me show you, this is the person who is fulfilling the law and the prophets.
I don't believe in that promise. I'll just be honest at this point.
Then it hit me. I saw it.
This Jew is very frightened of a post-Christian society.
The power of love.
I don't want to be in a Hallmark card, I tell you.
We've got our work cut out for us, gentlemen. I sure hope we're up to the task.
I suppose the thing I've been struck by the most in the last few sessions is first the relevance of these very old stories, if we might call them that, to the modern world and to the present moment is I think even more importantly to say. And the second thing is that as someone who is a non-believer, the extent to which my attempts over the course of my life to find out what it is to live a good life have come up with very similar answers to the ones we've been discussing here. And particularly, I think the big shift I experienced some time ago was the realization of voluntary sacrifice that we've talked about a lot. and the meaning that comes from that. So I've been very struck by, this will be unsurprising to most of you, I imagine, but to me it's been, I would almost say a revelation, how many answers are contained in these very old stories.
Well, as Dennis pointed out, this is the best we have. The alternatives we've generated have been, at their worst, hellishly catastrophic, and at their best, unconscionably weak in the face of that catastrophe. It isn't clear to me how what the Bible portrays is true. But it isn't clear to me that I have the capacity to fully understand what it means for something to be true. That doesn't disturb me. My experience with the biblical texts and with many of the mythological stories that I've read is that they're inexhaustible sources of wisdom. And generally, if I find something in them that is an obstacle, it's because there's something in me that has yet to be transformed. I just don't get it. And I would say that's still the case. Probably in this series, the most difficult part of that is the miracles, especially the cosmic miracles and the resurrection in the more bodily sense. But I think the appropriate reaction to this text is reverence. It's the voice of humanity over thousands and thousands of years. It's the foundational text of our culture, of the West, of the freest and most productive and generous cultures that have ever emerged. It pulled us out of the absolute catastrophe of power-mad paganism. It's been an inestimable benefit to the world. It's freed the slaves. It's raised the poor out of their poverty. We're fools to abandon that. We're fools to abandon that on the presumption that our narrow rationalism can lord it over whatever it is that these stories represent. I found the reality of evil in the world unquestionable. It seemed to me that it's our moral duty to contend with that with every fiber of our being, especially in the aftermath of the 20th century. My personal sense has been that I have found what's most wise in relationship to what's most malevolent in our deepest stories. They're deep for a reason. They're the foundation of our culture for a reason. We owe them the respect we owe our mothers and fathers. We owe them the respect we owe our ancestors. We owe them the respect we owe humanity itself and the human spirit. And my sense is, as we all experienced around this table, that if you approach these texts and man and God themselves in a spirit of humility and reverence, then you discover the well that never runs dry.